Xbox have yet again decided to treat our backlog, and honestly, I can't really keep up these days. It is a pretty decent sale which has just dropped onto the Xbox store, and it's seemingly come out of nowhere, and it includes quite a lot of obscure titles which usually don't go on sale often or rarely ever get highlighted. Of course, do make sure to leave a comment below to enter our Xbox game giveaway, which I do host every week on these sales videos, and then check back on Wednesday to see the winner. But with that, my name is Fletcher, and this is Xbox Nation, and let's just dive into the games you need to grab in this brand new sale. Pacific Drive landed on the Xbox within the past few months, and I know many were finally glad to see this once PlayStation exclusive finally landing onto our Xbox consoles. I am actually really loving my time with this game, and I'm actually surprised by how actually good it is. It's not a horror game in the traditional sense either, as there's very little in the way of scares, so it really emphasizes a dreadful and eerie atmosphere that keeps you moving. It is a roguelike experience, and you have to do anything possible to keep your car maintained as you explore the Olympic exclusion zone. Don't just take my word for it though, as this game has been received so incredibly well across many reviews over the past few years. If this hasn't been on your radar, put it firmly on there, as it's definitely worth checking out as soon as possible, especially as it's now down to just £10 in this sale. It's been a few months now since the mammoth launch of Battlefield 6, and although the game is in a somewhat of a middling time due to the content drops, it's still a very good FPS. You can grab it in this sale for 40% off, bringing this entry down to just £42, and although that doesn't seem like a massive discount, it's still a very good price for the amount on offer here. Don't get me wrong, the campaign is pretty predictable and also pretty lackluster, but that is then made up for with the outstanding multiplayer. The gunplay is incredibly solid, the maps are serviceable, although I would like to see some larger all-out warfare ones, and the destruction is pretty great around the board. Many of us who have actually played it had a really good time with this Battlefield, as it really was a great return to form from the multiplayer after 2042. I really do hope they can be quicker and bring more content in live service plans, but hey, one can only dream. Even so, it's still a very good package, and it's still a very good price for this week. I know many of you have been having a blast with RoboCop ever since the original release, and also since it landed onto Xbox Game Pass a few months back now. I have some great news for you this week though, as we now have a very decent discount for the second entry, that being Unfinished Business, and it's down by quite a large percentage for quite a limited time. I would say it is a nice return to the Roboverse, but I do have to tell you, do not expect the same sort of game as Rogue City. Instead, this is a very linear storyline with as much depth as a kiddie pool. It's the epitome of this meeting could have been an email, and this should have been a DLC add-on for Rogue City, to be honest. However, it is a nice and different romp compared to that original entry, and the price tag for this week is just £12.50, and it does reflect that if you do think about it, as that's actually less than the usual price of a cost of a DLC these days. It is fun, you get a ton of weapons to use, and I just love the world they've crafted yet again. Roguelike dungeon crawling usually means real-time chaos, but Crown Trick twists expectations by making everything turn-based and also grid-based. The enemies here only move when you do, which is very unique, and it kind of transforms every room in this game into a tactical puzzle. It's not just about quick reflexes, but about your foresight, planning, and just making clever use of all the abilities at your disposal. Honestly, I really love the visual style here. It's very colourful and whimsical, almost kind of storybook-like in its design, but the challenges lurking inside of those labyrinths are no joke here. Bosses in particular will demand some smart play and creative use of your arsenal, and you combine that with a system that lets you acquire powers from fallen monsters, and every run feels fresh and strategic. Right now, this game is down to just £4 with a 75% discount, and that's an absolute steal for the amount of content on offer. But talking about great amount of content, check this out. I will be providing you with a ton of videos over this next month for Xbox, including looks at Crimson Desert, Planet of Lana 2, and so much more. Over 67% of you are not subscribed, and I would love for you to join the largest dedicated independent Xbox channel here on YouTube. With that, let's dive back into the sales that you need to grab for this week. At £5, this is actually the lowest price ever for all three of the Metro games. For those of you who love deeply atmospheric, story-driven shooters, the Metro Saga bundle is an unbeatable deal, as it actually packs all three games, that being Metro 2033 Redux, Metro Last Light Redux, and even Metro Exodus, into one ultimate post-apocalyptic package. These are of course based on the very popular novels, but these games do drop you into a hauntingly immersive nuclear-ravaged Russia, where you have to fight against mutated horrors, rival factions, and harsh elements. The first two games do focus on more tight, claustrophobic survival horror within Moscow's metro tunnels, while Metro Exodus actually expanded into a sort of semi-open world adventure. Honestly, every bullet matters in these games, every shadow could hide danger, and the choices do impact how the story unfolds. This makes it one of the best single-player FPS experiences out there, and that's why they're so highly rated amongst many within the gaming community. The Serpent Rogue is a haunting little alchemy adventure that deserves way more love and attention. In this one, you actually play as a warden who's a mysterious figure tasked with cleansing corruption from a beautifully bleak medieval world. It's all kind of about experimentation, so you'd be doing stuff like mixing potions, taming creatures, and then just discovering how ingredients interact in some pretty cool and surprising ways. I really love the art direction. It's painterly and muted. It gives everything a sort of dreamlike quality. It's a very quiet and mysterious game. It's that kind of game that reveals itself slowly rather than shouting for attention, and I think that's why I so gravitated towards it. This one is so overlooked. It's now only down to £1.60 after a huge 90% discount, and that for me is an absolute steal in the sale. If you enjoy crafting systems, gentle world building, and melancholy fantasy vibes, then the Serpent Rogue is lovely, and it's a low-key escape from those louder worlds. City builders in space don't really come around that too often, and Aven Colony takes that genre off-world. Instead of managing pollution or even traffic jams like stuff like city skylines, you're instead dealing with alien diseases, then oxygen levels, and a hostile environment around you. The game will challenge you to create thriving human settlements across different extraterrestrial landscapes, and you'll have to balance the needs of your colonists with the harsh realities of alien weather and also the alien wildlife. It's less about endless sandboxing and more about structured mission design, which makes it perfect for players who want goals alongside that creativity. The best part is this game is ridiculously cheap right now. It's just £2.64 after a massive 90% discount, and that's for the Deluxe edition, for Christ's sake. That's the cost of a cup of tea, and this is a game that will test your strategy skills under strange alien skies. A recent release which came to us in just September of 2025 was Hell Is Us, and this is such an underrated game that needs a ton more praise than it ever gets. To give you an idea, this one drops you into the world of Hedaya, and things are far from normal as the country is going through a huge civil war. This one is part Souls-like, part adventure game, and part detective simulator, but this gargantuan puzzler game is dense, immaculately detailed, and devilishly dark. Honestly, I will say it right now, you will never play anything like it in this generation. Hell Is Us does not feature a traditional map or even marker system, and instead almost everything that you need to do to navigate this world is in its environmental details and also the dialogue. It really is such a unique approach, and it works so bloody well, and I was surprised about how mature it gets with its dark tones that really draw you in. It is down by 40% off, which isn't going to bring it down to the lowest price we will see in this week's Xbox sales video, but it is the lowest price for this game yet, and I do highly recommend it if you haven't had a chance yet. The Iron Harvest Complete Edition is now down by 85% off to just £6.74, and it really does a great job of delivering an epic real-time strategy experience, but set in an alternate 1920s dieselpunk world. You can actually command massive mechs and infantry squads as you fight for dominance in richly detailed battlefields. The Complete Edition, which I'm going to be highlighting though, includes all of the DLC of course, and that does provide a ton of additional content and even some extra story-driven campaigns. For me, this game really did emphasize tactical gameplay in a very great way. It also encourages a lot of strategic thinking alongside resource management and careful positioning. I absolutely love RTS games. I never expected it to be this good, as it's actually got a really great narrative beyond it, and you never really get a great narrative these days within these sort of RTS experiences. It is totally well worth a try, and I would be keen to your thoughts on this one in the comments below. I think one of the best deals which I'm going to highlight for this week has to be for this next game. If you miss classic survival horror games with their fixed cameras, limited saves, and proper puzzles, then Tormented Souls feels like it was made specifically for you. This is very much inspired by the old school Resident Evil and Silent Hill games, and it fully commits to that sort of slower and more methodical style. You're managing resources carefully, you're going to be backtracking through interconnected areas, and then solving puzzles that actually require thought instead of hand-holding. What I really loved about this is just how confident it is in its design philosophy. It doesn't modernize everything just for accessibility. That atmosphere also carries a lot of weight as well, with a lot of creepy environments doing more work than the jump scares ever could. At just £3.40, it is incredibly easy for me to recommend, especially if you're craving a horror game that values tension and puzzle solving over that constant combat. Forgive Me Father feels like someone mixed classic Doom energy with a Lovecraftian nightmare, and with both entries now being on Xbox, there is no better time to delve into them as they're absolutely phenomenal. As you can see, it is a rather loud and fast-paced, intentionally chaotic FPS where it throws waves of enemies at you while your character slowly loses your sanity. The comic book art style gives it a really distinctive look as well, and I just love how aggressively it leans into that aesthetic. Your weapons feel punchy, movement is incredibly quick, and the gameplay loop is all about momentum. You won't be hiding behind cover and waiting until you have a clearing. Instead, you're going to be pushing forward constantly like those traditional boomer shooters. It's unapologetically old school within its design, but modern enough to stay comfortable to play on the Xbox Series consoles. At £7, this is a great pick, especially if you enjoy those retro shooters, and you won't be disappointed. I am seriously addicted to CloverPit, and honestly, I cannot put this game down, and I feel I might have a real problem in a good way anyway. I know many out there probably have ignored this one due to the basic premise and the gameplay on screen, but don't let it fool you as it will really hook you. It is now down by 20%, so it's not the largest discount, but it only makes the game £6.71, and to me that's a bloody bargain. To give you an idea, you're essentially locked in a rusty room and there's only two ways out, through the door or into a pit. You'll obviously plummet into the latter if you fail to pay off your increasingly rapid debt, and you'll have to use a slot machine to try and earn enough money to keep your run going. I cannot understate to you how ridiculously addictive that this game really gets, and if you've ever played anything like Balatro or even Vampire Survivors, you know exactly what I mean. There are elements of RNG, but all the strategies and builds you can make it so insanely enjoyable to play, and I've actually put in over 50 hours at this point. This next game was a little bit of a surprise because of just how different it is with regards to its horror approach. The Chant isn't about relentless scares, instead this game focuses on psychological tension and the atmosphere built around a spiritual retreat gone very wrong. I have to say the combat in this one does exist, is not the main point though, but managing your character's mental state is an equally important role, and probably even more so, which adds an unusual layer to the survival aspects. It does lean more into the sort of setting though, with its colourful environment slowly becoming unsettling as things start to unravel. It's not a perfect game mechanically, but the ideas here do carry it forward, especially if you enjoy horror games that look to experiment a little bit instead of following that traditional formula. It is only £4 and it's an easy recommendation, especially if you want to try a sort of horror experience that's trying something new within the genre. It is safe to say that there's always a pressure when a game uses that Alien license, because atmosphere really does matter more than anything else. Thankfully, Alien Rogue Incursion understands that tension is the real star of the show, and the transition it made from the VR origins to a flat screen experience is actually really well accomplished. The movement feels very cautious, environments are claustrophobic, and encounters carry genuine stress rather than turning into simple shooting galleries. It kind of reminds me of Alien Isolation, but that's only in certain proportions. It definitely is not as horror-filled and isn't as authentic. What did stand out to me though was just how great the sound design is here, and the combat sequences are actually pretty decent. It is now down to £17.50, and don't get me wrong, that's still a mid-range price point, but due to the fact I couldn't recommend it at its full price due to the length, this price more than justifies finally delving into this brand new Alien game. What game are you going to pick up this week? Do let me know down below, and if there's any other sales you might recommend to anyone else on the Xbox store right now. Do make sure to like this video if you did enjoy, and do subscribe for more Xbox content on a daily basis. Whilst here, do check out the video on screen now, as I just covered the 15 new Xbox and Game Pass games coming our way for this March.